The sun hung high over the desert of Namara, turning the sand into a sea of gold. The heat pressed down like an invisible weight, and every breath carried the taste of dust. Rana pulled her scarf tighter around her face as she led the small group of explorers across the dunes. Their footsteps left shallow marks in the sand, only to be erased moments later by the wind. They had been traveling for 4 days, searching for something most believed was only a legend. Stories told by wandering traders spoke of a strange structure, buried far from any road or settlement. Some claimed it was a temple, others a fortress, and a few whispered it was not built by human hands. Rana had heard the stories since she was young, and now she was here to find out the truth. Beside her walked Imran, a quiet man with sharp eyes and a mind for solving problems. Behind them came Lena, the youngest of the team, who carried a small camera drone in her pack. Farther back were 2 workers, strong and steady, carrying water and tools. They moved slowly, for the desert punished anyone who rushed out by midday. The wind began to shift. The air carried a faint, low hum, so soft that at first Rana thought it was only in her head. She slowed her steps and tilted her head, listening. The hum seemed to grow as they moved forward, as if it was guiding them. They climbed a steep dune, grains of sand slipping beneath their boots. When they reached the top, Rana stopped and stared in silence. Before them, the sand dipped into a shallow valley, and at the center stood a shape unlike anything they had seen. It was a pyramid, but not like the stone ones of Earth's old civilizations. Its sides were smooth, made from a material that looked like stone yet shone faintly under the sun, giving off a silver-gray glow. The edges were sharp, and there was no sign of weathering, no cracks, no carvings, no entryway. The hum was louder now, not from the air but from the ground itself. It was steady, like the deep note of a giant drum, yet without any vibration they could feel. Lena lifted her camera drone and sent it into the air. It circled the structure, sending images back to her screen. "No openings," she said. "No doors, no windows. It is perfect on all sides." Imran knelt and brushed the sand at the pyramid's base. The material felt warm under his fingers, warmer than the desert around it, as if it held its own heat. "This is not ordinary stone," he said. "It feels alive." Rana's heart beat faster. She had expected ruins, broken walls, perhaps hidden chambers. But this was different. This pyramid was whole, untouched by time. They set up camp nearby, waiting for the evening when the air would be cooler. As the sun began to sink, the glow of the pyramid changed. The silver-gray surface seemed to drink in the fading light, becoming darker, almost black, and the hum deepened in tone. The sound felt closer now, not just in their ears, but in their chests. Over the campfire, the team talked about what it could be. One of the workers said it might be a treasure vault built by ancient kings. Lena suggested it could be a monument built to honor a lost civilization, but Imran shook his head. "Buildings are made to keep people out," he said. "This one feels like it is made to keep something in." Rana looked toward the pyramid in the fading light. She did not know why, but his words made her uneasy. That night, as the desert grew cold, Rana could not sleep. The hum of the pyramid was still there, faint but steady, and she felt as if it was calling her. She rose quietly, wrapped herself in her scarf, and walked toward it. The moon shone faintly, casting pale light on the smooth surface. Up close, the material looked even stranger. Not stone, not metal, but something between. She placed her hand against it. The warmth was still there, but now she felt a slow, rhythmic pulse, as if the structure itself had a heartbeat. Rana stepped back. The hum seemed to respond, growing just a little louder, as if acknowledging her touch dot in the distance. The wind carried the faint rustle of shifting sand. She looked around, but there was nothing there, only the endless dunes and the pyramid's shadow stretching across them. When she returned to camp, she did not speak of what she had felt, but in her mind, she knew the stories they had heard were only part of the truth. This was not just a monument or a tomb. Something was inside, something that had been there for a very, very long time, and for reasons she could not yet understand, it felt as though it was waiting. The next morning, the sun rose like a burning coin over the horizon, spilling gold across the desert. The team packed their supplies and prepared to explore the area on the pyramid. Rana had barely slept, her thoughts still circling the strange and the slow pulse she had felt under her palm. The night before, Imran suggested they search for clues in the ruins they had seen on their maps, a short walk from the pyramid's valley. The place was marked by half-buried walls, broken columns, and scattered stones worn smooth by centuries of wind. The workers carried digging tools, and Lena brought her camera drone to map the site. As they moved among the ruins, the air felt different here. The heat was still heavy, but there was also a dry stillness, as if the desert itself was holding its breath. The broken structures were made of sandstone, carved with faded patterns that once might have been bright and full of meaning. Now, they were only shadows of what they had been. Near the center of the ruins, they found what looked like an old library or record hall. The roof had collapsed long ago, but one corner of the building was still standing, its walls painted with faint images. Imran brushed sand from the stone, revealing scenes of people standing before a dark shape that seemed to rise into the sky. At first, it looked like a mountain, but the smooth sides made Rana think of something else, something like the pyramid. Lena pointed to a set of symbols under the painting. "Do you think you can read this?" she asked. Imran studied them carefully. He knew some of the old desert languages from his research. "Not all of it," he said slowly, "but enough to understand the meaning." He traced his finger along the stone. "It speaks of a being called the Sleeper. They feared it. They said it was too strong to destroy, so they locked it inside a prison that could not be broken by wind, water, or time." Rana stepped closer. "The prison, that is the pyramid." Imran nodded. "It says the people built it together with others who came from beyond the skies. They worked in silence and told no one of the place, for they feared someone would try to open it." One of the workers looked uneasy. If they feared it so much, why did they not leave the desert? Imran shrugged. "Maybe they thought it was safer to guard it than to abandon it. Maybe they believed the prison would hold forever." They searched the rest of the building and found several broken tablets buried under sand. Some were cracked beyond reading. The one still held words clear enough to make out. It was a warning. "Do not break the seal," Imran read aloud. "For the Sleeper is patient. It will wait until the door is open. It will promise much and give nothing. It will turn the hand that frees it into its own chain." The words sent a cold feeling through Rana, even under the burning desert sun. She glanced toward the valley where the pyramid lay, its sharp peak barely visible over the dunes. Lena lowered her voice. "Do you believe this?" Rana thought for a long moment. "I believe they built that pyramid for a reason, and I believe whatever they locked away is still in there." The group returned to camp in silence, each lost in thought. The hum of the pyramid was still there, steady and constant, as if it had been following them all along. That evening, they sat around the campfire. The workers spoke quietly in their own language, glancing toward the pyramid every now and then. Lena kept reviewing the drone's recordings, zooming in on every surface of the structure, but there was nothing, no cracks, no marks, no sign of an entrance. Imran took out a small notebook and began sketching what they had seen in the ruins. "The painting," he said, "was not just of the pyramid. Look, see this shape in the background? These lines here. They could be stars, And this curve might be a planet. Rana leaned over. You think the ones who built it came from another world? I think, Imran said slowly, that they wanted this place to be hidden from more than just the people of the desert. They wanted to keep it hidden from the universe. A gust of wind stirred the sand, carrying the low hum of the pyramid across the valley. It seemed to grow louder, and for a moment, Rana thought she could almost hear a second sound beneath it. Something like a faint, slow breath. She pushed the thought aside. The desert played tricks on the mind. But later, when the fire burned low and the stars spread across the sky, Rana sat alone and looked toward the dark shape of the pyramid. It stood silent, yet somehow watchful, its sides catching the moonlight. In a strange, dull shimmer, the warnings from the ruined city echoed in her mind. Dot, do not break the seal. That it will wait until the door is opened. Dot. And though she told herself, she would never be foolish enough to open it. Rana knew the truth. Curiosity was a dangerous thing. And out here in the endless desert, with the hum in the air and the pulse in the stone, it was already starting to pull them closer. The sun was barely above the horizon when Rana woke. The desert air was cool, the only time of day when the sand did not burn underfoot. She stepped out of her tent and looked toward the pyramid. In the morning light, it appeared even more perfect, as if the night had polished its sides. The hum was still there, soft but steady, and she could feel it in her bones now. Imran was already awake, standing near the base of the pyramid with a small scanner in his hands. Lena and the two workers joined them soon after, carrying the cutting tools they had brought from their truck. These were meant for stone and metal, strong enough to break through most walls. We will try here, Imran said, pointing to a spot near the ground where the surface seemed faintly different in color. If there is any weakness, it might be here. The workers set up the tools while Rana kept her eyes on the horizon. The desert was empty as far as she could see, but she could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. The first sparks flew as the cutting blade touched the pyramid's surface. It gave off a strange smell, not like burning metal or stone, but something sharper, almost like heated sand after rain. The sound was odd, too. Not the harsh screech of metal being cut, but a low, deep tone, as if the pyramid was answering the tool. Lena frowned as she adjusted the power settings. It is resisting, she said. This material does not cut the way it should. Hours passed, the sun climbing higher and the heat pressing down. Finally, the blade began to sink into the wall. It was slow work, but the line they cut grew longer. The shape of a narrow slit forming in the smooth surface. Rana knelt to brush away the dust from the cut. The material inside was darker than the outside, almost black and warm to the touch. The hum grew louder, and now there was a faint vibration under her palm. We are almost through, Imran said, wiping sweat from his face. When the final piece gave way, a rush of stale air poured out, heavy and dry, carrying a strange scent, like burnt iron mixed with dust that had not seen sunlight for centuries. It was not just air escaping. It felt like something had been waiting for this moment. The opening was narrow, just enough for a person to slip through sideways. Rana peered inside. The light from outside seemed to fade as it entered, swallowed by the darkness. The walls inside were the same smooth material, but they did not shine here. Instead, they seemed to drink in the light, making the passage feel endless. Lena sent her drone in first. Its small lights barely pushed back the shadows, but the camera showed a winding corridor leading deeper inside. The floor was smooth and unmarked, and the air shimmered faintly, as if it was heavier here. One of the workers crossed himself quietly. This place is not meant for people to walk. But Rana stepped forward. We came to see what is inside. We will go, but slowly. They entered one by one, their boots making soft sounds that seemed too loud in the stillness. The hum they had heard outside was stronger here, almost like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant dot after a short walk. The corridor bent and opened into a wider passage. Their lights picked up faint markings on the walls, not carved but glowing softly, lines and shapes that shifted when looked at directly. Rana reached out, but the symbols vanished when her fingers came close. The deeper they went, the more there. Equipment began to fail. The compass spun without direction. The radio crackled with sharp bursts of static before going silent. Even the drone's signal weakened, its camera feed flickering. Imran stopped and adjusted his scanner. The readings here make no sense. It is like the air is heavy with energy. Rana felt the floor tremble ever so slightly under her boots. She told herself it was her imagination, but the vibration was there, steady and slow, like breathing. They continued until they reached another wall. This one was not smooth, but marked with a circular panel in the center. The panel pulsed with faint light, the same rhythm as the hum. Lena studied it. It looks like a seal. Maybe the builders used this to keep the inner chamber closed. As she spoke, a faint sound came from beyond the wall. It was soft, almost a whisper, and too quick to understand. Rana glanced at Imran, who had gone pale. "You heard it too," he said quietly. Before they could decide what to do, the panel shifted. It did not move because of them. It moved on its own, as if something on the other side had pressed against it. The hum grew louder, and the corridor seemed to close in around them. Rana stepped back. "We need to return for now. We are not ready for what is ahead." But as they turned to leave, the wall behind them gave a slow, deep groan, and the air seemed to grow heavier. Something inside the pyramid had felt their presence, and it was no longer asleep. The air inside the pyramid was heavier now, pressing against their chests as they stood before the glowing seal. The faint whisper they had heard moments ago seemed to fade, but the hum remained, deeper and stronger than before. It was no longer just a sound. It felt like a living presence around them. Rana kept her eyes on the circular panel in the wall. The light in its center pulsed slowly, almost like the beat of a heart. Each pulse seemed to draw the air in, then release it in a quiet rush, as if the pyramid itself was breathing. "We should go," Imran said in a low voice. "This place is waking up." Lena hesitated, her fingers brushing over the side of the panel. "If this is a seal, there might be a way to open it fully. Think of what we could find. Knowledge, history, technology." But Rana remembered the warning carved in the ruins. "Do not break the seal." She stepped forward and placed her hand on Lena's arm. "We came to learn, not to release what they locked away." Before they could argue further, the ground beneath them trembled. It was not a sharp quake, but a slow rolling movement, as though something deep below was shifting. The light on the seal brightened, spilling a faint glow across the walls, and the strange markings on the corridor began to shimmer again. Then they heard it. A voice. It was not loud, and it did not come from any one direction. It was inside their heads, soft yet clear, speaking in a language they had never heard, and yet somehow understood. "You have come." Rana froze. The others glanced at one another, each realizing the voice had reached them in the same way. Lena swallowed. Who are you?" There was a pause, a slow rhythm of silence between words. "I am Unearthed." The name carried a weight, like the echo of a storm in the distance. The hum in the walls deepened. Imran's grip on his scanner tightened. "What is this place?" "My prison," the voice answered. "They feared me, so they locked me in the dark. Ages have passed. I have waited." Rana stepped back, her mind racing. "The ones who built this, they said you were dangerous." Low sound rippled through the air, almost like laughter without breath. "They feared what they could not control. They lied. I did not wish to harm you. I can offer much power, knowledge, the secrets of the stars." Lena's eyes lit with a spark of curiosity. If you can give knowledge, we should at least. No, Rana cut her off. We cannot trust what we do not understand. The light on the seal brightened further, and with it came a strange pull, like an invisible hand reaching toward them. Rana felt her thoughts drift for a moment, a gentle pressure in her mind, as if the voice was trying to step inside her head completely. You do not need to fear me, Unearthed said, the tone smooth and calming. You have traveled far through heat and sand. I can give you what you seek. Let me out, and I will guide you. Rana clenched her jaw. Why are you here? What did you do? The pause that followed was long. Then the voice replied, softer than before. I took what was promised to me. I defended myself. They called it destruction. They called it hunger. But they never asked why. The hum now filled every corner of the corridor. The air felt charged, like the moments before a lightning strike. Rana realized her hand was trembling, and she could see the others were affected too. Even the workers stood frozen, their eyes glassy, as if half lost in thought. She forced herself to turn away from the seal. We are leaving, she said firmly. But the voice followed them as they began to step back. You will return, Unearthed whispered. You will dream of the answers I can give. You will hear me in the wind and feel me in the ground. And when you are ready, you will open the way. The floor trembled again, stronger this time, making dust fall from the ceiling. The corridor seemed to darken behind them, though the glow of the seal remained like an eye watching their retreat. They moved quickly now, their boots striking the smooth floor in sharp echoes. The hum grew fainter as they neared the entrance slit, but it never fully left. Even when they stepped out into the hot sunlight of the desert, Rana could still feel it, pulsing faintly in her bones. Back at the camp, the air felt different. Thinner, freer, but the tension between them was heavy. Lena kept pacing, muttering about the possibilities of what Unearthed might know. Imran was silent, staring out toward the dunes. The workers avoided speaking at all, their eyes fixed on the ground. That night, the desert wind carried strange sounds to the camp. At first, Rana thought it was the usual whisper of sand shifting in the darkness. But as she lay awake in her tent, she heard the voice again, soft as a sigh. Rana. She sat up, her heart pounding. You cannot ignore me forever. Her hands tightened on the blanket. She wanted to speak back, but some instinct told her not to answer. She closed her eyes and tried to shut out the sound. Yet it lingered until the edge of sleep pulled her under. In her dreams, she saw the pyramid rising from the sand, its surface glowing faintly under the moon. She saw the seal break open, light pouring out like water. And in the center of that light stood a figure she could not fully see, tall and shadowed, with eyes that burned like distant stars. When she woke, the first light of morning was spilling across the desert. The hum was still there, and she knew Unearthed had not gone back to sleep. The desert sun was sharp and white the next day, but the heat was not the only weight pressing down on the camp. Something had changed since they heard the voice inside the pyramid. The team no longer moved as one. There was a quiet division, forming though no one spoke of it directly. Rana stood near the edge of the valley, looking at the pyramid. It stood silent under the sun, yet she could feel it watching. The hum was faint from this distance, but her mind kept going back to the words Unearthed had spoken. You will return. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Lena approached, carrying a water flask. You did not sleep much, Lena said. Rana took the flask but did not drink. Neither did you. Lena's eyes were restless, as if her thoughts were running too fast. You heard what it offered. Knowledge, technology, the secrets of the stars. Do you know what that could mean for us? For Earth? Rana turned to face her. It could mean more than we can handle. Power like that always comes with a cost. But what if the cost is worth it? Lena's voice was steady, almost too steady. What if we could end hunger, disease, war? What if we could build things the rest of the world can only dream of? Unearthed said it was imprisoned because it could not be controlled, not because it was evil. Rana shook her head. Lena, you are listening to a voice that speaks from a prison built by more than one world. That is not a small warning. Lena said nothing more, but the way she walked back to camp told Rana her mind was already made up. Later that morning, Imran gathered them around a table in the shade of a canvas sheet. He had been studying the notes from the ruins. Several pages lay spread out before him, covered in careful sketches and copied symbols. These records, he began, are not just a warning. They are a story. The people who built the pyramid were not alone. They worked with others, beings from other worlds. They called themselves the Circle of Silence. Together, they trapped Unearthed here because it had destroyed entire cities across the stars. Lena leaned forward. Destroyed or defended itself. You only have their words, not its. Imran ignored her and continued. The Circle agreed that no one should ever know where this place was. They erased maps, destroyed records, and buried the cities that had built it. They left guardians here, but those guardians are long gone. We are the first to find it in hundreds of years. One of the workers shifted uneasily. Maybe we should leave it that way. Rana looked at each face around the table. I agree. We have seen enough to know that opening that seal is not safe. Our duty is to report this, not to release it. But Lena's expression hardened. And let someone else come here and take what could be ours. We could be the ones to control it. If Unearthed is dangerous, then we decide how it is used. That is exactly the kind of thinking that leads to ruin, Rana said. The group broke apart after that. The workers stayed close to Rana and Imran, avoiding the pyramid. Lena began spending more time near the entrance slit they had cut, sometimes with a tablet in her hands, studying the recordings from the drone. Rana noticed she had stopped sharing all her data. That night, as the camp settled in the silence, Rana sat awake by the fire. The stars above were sharp and countless, the desert air cool against her face. She thought of the ruined city, the painted walls, the broken tablets with their warnings. She thought of the hum inside the pyramid and the way Unearthed's voice had wrapped itself around her thoughts like silk. Then she heard it again. Rana. It was soft, like the touch of a shadow. She closed her eyes, but the voice did not fade. They fear what they do not understand, Unearthed said. They hide from the truth, but you are not like them. You came here for answers. Rana did not answer. I can give you what you seek, the voice continued. I can show you worlds where the skies burn with colors you have never seen. I can give you the strength to lead, to protect, to shape the future. You destroyed cities, Rana whispered in her mind. I ended those who sought to end me, Unearthed replied, its tone calm and without shame. Would you not do the same? Rana opened her eyes and stared at the pyramid's dark shape in the moonlight. The hum was faint here, but she felt it like a second heartbeat. You will have to choose, Unearthed said. Soon, the next morning, Rana found Lena standing by the pyramid with one of the workers. The man looked uneasy, his hands holding a small case of tools. When Rana approached, Lena smiled as if nothing was unusual. We are checking the cut we made yesterday, Lena sighed. The edges might need reinforcement if we want to go further. Further? Rana asked. Lena's smile did not fade. We cannot learn more if we just stand here. Rana glanced at the worker, who avoided her eyes. She could see now how thin the line had become between caution and temptation. As the day wore on, the wind began to pick up, carrying with it a low, rolling sound from the valley. It was the hum of the pyramid, but deeper now, stronger, as if responding to their thoughts. The desert sky grew hazy. The sun dimmed behind a thin veil of dust dot by nightfall. The tension in the camp had become a silent wall between them. Imran kept his distance from Lena, and the workers stayed near Rana. But even she could not ignore the truth. Unearthed's presence was growing, pressing into their minds, shaping their thoughts. It was no longer just a voice behind a wall. It was a shadow, stretching outward, testing the edges of its cage. And the cage was starting to feel smaller. The desert was silent in the early hours, but the camp was not. Rana woke to the sound of hushed voices near the pyramid. She left her tent quietly, then moved toward the sound, her steps sinking softly into the cool sand in the pale light of dawn. She saw Lena and one of the workers kneeling by the narrow slit they had cut. Lena held a small device that glowed faint blue, its tip pressed against the pyramid's surface. The worker was passing her different tools from a case beside him. "What are you doing?" Rana asked, her voice sharp. Lena did not look up. "Checking the seal. The material here is thinner than we thought. We might be able to open it more." Rana stepped closer. "We agreed not to go further." "You agreed," Lena said, her tone flat. "Not me." Imran appeared behind Rana, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He looked at the tools, then at Lena. "You are letting it talk to you." Lena turned then, her expression calm but her eyes bright. "It is not just talking to me. It is telling me things. About the builders, about worlds beyond this one, about what it can give us. We do not have to fear it." Imran's voice grew firm. "You are being used." The worker beside Lena shifted uncomfortably, but did not stop helping her. Rana saw the man's face and realized it. Unearthed was speaking to him too. The ground under them gave a faint shudder. It was not the slow breathing they had felt before. This was sharper, like a warning. The hum grew deeper, pressing into the air until it was almost hard to breathe. Lena stood, holding the device tightly. "We cannot leave this locked forever. If we do not act, someone else will come and they will take it from us." Rana stared at her. "And if it destroys more than it gives? If it is dangerous?" Lena's voice did not waver. "Then we control it." Imran shook his head slowly. "You cannot control something that has already waited centuries for freedom. You will only serve it." The hum shifted then, a wave of sound rolling through the sand and up their legs. It was almost like a heartbeat, but faster now. And behind it came the voice, not just inside their heads, but in the air around them. "You fight among yourselves," Unearthed said, its tone calm, almost amused. "One side will see the truth, the other will fade." The words struck like a cold wind. Rana felt them pulling at her thoughts, making her doubt herself. She forced her mind to focus, but she could see Lena's expression soften, as if she were hearing promises no one else could. The hum rose again, and the pyramid's surface began to ripple faintly, as if light moved just under its skin. Rana stepped back, but Lena took a step forward, her hand brushing the wall near the slit. "Do you feel that?" Lena whispered. "It is waking. It knows we are ready." The wind picked up suddenly, sending sand swirling through the valley. The workers stumbled to hold the supply tent in place, but Rana's eyes stayed on Lena. The young woman was too close to the wall now, her palm resting against it. The faint light from the pyramid seemed to spread along the point where she touched it. "Lena, move away," Rana called. Lena did not answer. The hum grew louder until it drowned out the sound of the wind. The blue device in her other hand flickered, its light fading and returning in quick pulses. Rana ran forward and grabbed Lena's arm, pulling her back from the wall. The moment her hand broke contact, Lena gasped, as if waking from a deep dream. "What are you doing?" Lena shouted. "Stopping you from doing something you cannot undo," Rana said, her voice steady but her heart racing. The ground trembled again, harder this time. Dust fell from the cliffside above the valley. The workers shouted over the wind, trying to secure their gear. Imran moved to Rana's side, his face pale. "It is testing us," he said. "It is seeing how far it can push." The wind grew stronger, and with it came faint shapes in the air, swirls of dust that almost looked like moving shadows. They twisted and shifted in ways that did not match the wind's direction. Rana's stomach tightened. One of the workers stumbled back from the pyramid's wall. "Something touched me," he said, his voice shaking. The hum slowed suddenly, becoming deep and steady again, as if nothing had happened. The wind eased. The shadows faded. But the air still felt charged, heavy with something unseen. Lena looked. From Rana to the pyramid. Her voice was quiet now. "You cannot stop this forever. It will happen, with or without you." Rana met her gaze. "Maybe, but it will not be today." They returned to camp in uneasy silence. The workers avoided eye contact. Imran busied himself with the maps, though his hands shook slightly as he worked. Lena stayed apart from the group, sitting with her back to the pyramid, but Rana noticed her glancing at it often. That night, the voice came again to Rana, soft and patient. "You cannot keep the others from me," Orad said. "They want what I can give. And when they open the door, they will remember that I spoke to you first. You will stand beside me." Rana lay still in her tent, listening to the hum in the distance. She did not answer, but she knew the truth. They were losing time. The longer they stayed, the stronger Oraf's hold would become Dot, and soon someone would give in completely. The sun rose over the desert like a slow-burning fire. The valley was still, but Rana felt the weight in the air. The hum from the pyramid was deeper than before, almost like a warning drumbeat. She knew Unearthed was close to breaking free. Imran was at the map table, his brow furrowed. "We have two choices," he said. "We leave now and hope the seal holds a little longer, or we act and make sure it stays locked forever." Rana looked toward the pyramid. Lena stood near the slit, her hands clasped behind her back. The worker who had been helping her was beside her, both of them quiet, staring at the wall as if waiting for something. "They will not leave," Rana said. "And if they stay, it will speak to them until they open it. We cannot just walk away." Imran nodded slowly. "Then we seal it. But once we do, we will not have another chance to come back." Rana knew what that meant. The builders had left no easy way to repair the seal. It was designed to be final. The method was in the notes they had found, a collapse of the inner passage, triggered from inside. Someone would have to be there when it happened. By mid-morning, the wind had risen. Sand swirled around the base of the pyramid. The hum grew faster, like a heartbeat before a run. Lena approached them, her expression calm but her voice low. "You do not understand. It does not want to harm us. It wants to share what it knows. We could end hunger, sickness, war. And what will it take in return?" Rana asked. Lena's eyes flickered. She did not answer. The ground shuddered, harder than before. From the slit in the pyramid's wall came a thin beam of pale light, reaching out like a hand. The worker stepped toward it, but Rana blocked his way. "Enough," she said. Imran looked at her, understanding in his eyes. "It has to be now." Rana turned to Lena. "If you open that wall, you will not be in control. None of us will." Lena's voice softened. "You think you can stop it? You cannot. It has waited longer than our entire history. It will not be denied." Rana did not argue. Words would not change anything now. She took the pack from the supply tent, the one with the tools and the old builder's instructions, and slung it over her shoulder. Imran's eyes narrowed. "You are going inside?" Rana nodded once. "It is the only way. The collapse trigger is past the first chamber. If we set it from outside, it will not hold." "I will go," Imran said quickly. "No," Rana said. You will keep them away from the slit. That is your part. He hesitated, but then he understood. He placed a hand on her arm for a moment, then stepped back. The wind howled now, carrying grains of sand that stung her face. Rana moved to the slit. The light within pulsed slowly like breathing. She stepped inside. The air was cool, heavy with a faint metallic taste. The hum was louder here, pressing into her bones. The walls shimmered with faint lines, patterns that shifted when she tried to focus on them. Unearthed's voice came, deep and smooth. You do not have to do this. I can give you more than you have ever dreamed. You could save millions. You could be remembered forever. Rana kept walking. The corridor curved gently, leading to a chamber with a floor of black stone. In the center stood a low pillar, its surface etched with the same shifting lines. This was the trigger. You will bury me again, Unearthed said, its tone almost sad. And for what? So you can keep your small world unchanged? So you can die forgotten? Rana placed her hands on the pillar. The lines shifted under her touch, resisting. She pressed harder, feeling the old mechanism come alive. The hum changed. Outside, she heard a faint shout. Imran's voice, distant. There was movement behind her. She turned and saw Lena in the corridor, her hair whipping in the wind that somehow reached even here. Stop, Lena said. You do not know what you are doing. Rana's voice was steady. I know exactly what I'm doing. Lena took a step forward. It is not evil. It is knowledge. It is power. You could use it. Rana shook her head. Power without limit is only another word for control. And control is what it wants over us. The walls trembled. The patterns on the floor rippled like water. Rana pressed the sequence on the pillar, the one from the builder's notes. The stone beneath her feet shifted. Lena's expression twisted, torn between anger and fear. If you do this, it will be gone forever. That is the point, Rana said. The hum rose sharply, almost a scream now. The air grew heavy, pressing against her chest. The pillar flared with white light, and a deep rumble came from below. The walls began to crack. Sand poured in from above. Rana took one last look at Lena. Go, she said. Lena stepped back, then turned and ran. The floor shook violently. The cracks spread upward. The light from the pillar dimmed, replaced by the roar of falling stone. Rana stayed where she was, her hands still on the pillar until the last moment. She felt the mechanism lock, sealing itself for the last time. Outside, Imran saw the pyramids. They shift, sending up clouds of dust. The slit collapsed in a spray of stone and sand. The hum stopped suddenly, leaving a silence so deep it felt strange. When the dust cleared, the pyramid stood whole again, the slit gone as if it had never been. But Rana was not with them. Lena stared at the sealed wall, her face pale. She buried herself in there, she whispered. Imran looked at her. She buried more than herself. She buried the thing that wanted to own us. The wind quieted. The desert was still once more. The pyramid gave no sound, no light, but somewhere, deep inside, far below the layers of stone and sand, Unearthed waited in the dark. And this time, it knew the name of the one who had stopped it.